call to order this regular meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors for December 6th, 2022. Roll call.
Sappington. Burns.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Smiley.
At this time, if you all will please stand with me as Director Carroll leads us in a word of prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Good evening, Father. Today we give thanks for the gifts that you have given, the gift of love, the gift of life, and the opportunity to share. We thank you for the city of Siloam Springs, the community that we have, the blessings that you have given to us, that we may welcome them, utilize them, and be givers of them. We thank you for this season to recognize Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, and the opportunity to recognize our neighbors. In these things we give thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would like to ask that anyone that is present that has an electronic device, please silence that. And thank you for that. We are going into the public input time, and I would like to make everyone aware that on our consent agenda that under our resolutions, item U, for the significant development at the 2100 block of Highway 16, that item has been withdrawn by the applicant. So that will not be a part of the agenda tonight. So with that, we will move into the public input, and I would ask if there is anyone that would like to speak to the board concerning any item that is not on the regular agenda. If there is not, is there anyone here that would like to speak to the board concerning any item that is on our consent agenda? Ma'am, please come to the podium and give us your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, hello. My name is Lindsay Fry. I am the brand and marketing manager for Jiffy Trip. Made my way over today and had lunch with Arthur here and some other fine folks at Siloam, and just wanted to come and introduce myself, put a face to my name, and let you guys know that we are thrilled to be putting a footprint here. If you ever have any questions or concerns about any of our builds or any marketing opportunities or events that you think would be beneficial for us, please let me know. I'm open to making new, friendships and relationships here in the city, and we're looking forward to being here.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we are looking forward to you all being open.
Yes, us too.
Is there anyone else? If not, we will move to the consent agenda. Item A, workshop minutes, November 15th, 2022. B, regular meeting minutes, November 15th, 2022. C, dedication of utility easements, 190 Arkansas Highway 59. Item D, resolution 65-22, special use development permit, short-term rental, 426 South Washington Street. Item E, resolution 66-22, special use development permit, short-term rental, 510 South College Street. Item F, resolution 722, special use development permit, short-term rental, 201 North Dogwood Street. Item G, resolution 68-22, special use development permit, short-term rental, 2213 East Finnick Street. Item H, resolution 69-22, renewal of economic development service agreement, Chamber of Commerce, $30,000. Item I, resolution 70-22, renewal of downtown economic development service agreement, Main Street, $35,000. Item J, Resolution 71-22, Renewal of Museum Operations and Management Service Agreement, Museum Society, $70,000. K, Appointments for the Utility Commission. L, Dedication of Utility Easements, 600 block of Highway 412 West. M, Dedication of Utility Easements, 3100 block of East Kenwood Street. N, Resolution 76-22, Arkansas Division of Environmental Quality, Contract of Obligation. That is our consent agenda. Directors, is there any item that you would like to have pulled for further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like E
Yes, ma'am.
and K.
E and K, okay. Is there anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent?
David
Oh, I'm
has.
sorry, David?
Letter I,
Okay.
and then I had a question on why is the dedication of utility easements at letter C broken up from the two at L and M? Was there some reason since they're the same thing? Aren't they the same thing?
I got them later.
From,
Okay. I didn't know if there was some reasoning. I was just curious. Okay, no big deal then.
is that
Yep,
it?
that's it.
All
Thank you.
right, sir. Anyone else? Then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with items E, K, and I removed?
Make a motion. to accept
Do I have a
it.
second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve with items removed. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Motion is approved. Director Rissler, item E and K.
Okay, on item E, I need to abstain. That is our business. But I will remain in the room to answer any questions.
Thank you. And item K?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yes?
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I just wanted the K, sorry. I feel like sometimes we have to really talk into the mics and sometimes
Yes,
it's
and I am asked again to remind you all to sit up and speak into the mics so that they are recording what you are saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
K is, I just want to say thank you to all those that applied and all those that went through the interview process and all those that were selected. To serve our community like this is a great commitment, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any comments on items E and K? If not, do I have a motion to approve item E, Resolution 66-22?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Abstain.
excuse me, Allen,
What? Oh, I didn't hear.
Allen.
It was so low, I couldn't tell what you said. Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. And item K, do I have a motion to approve the appointments for the Utility Commission?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Resolution 70-22, item I, Director Allen.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I've had some problems with the lack of exposure for what Main Street's contract requires to be supporting downtown events. The downtown trick or treat has not been promoted on their Facebook page or their own page, and the Christmas parade was not promoted at all as well. And it seems to be that there's a lot of promotion of what Main Street themselves is doing, the Decorate the Window contest or some other things. But just example for the downtown trick or treat, there was absolutely nothing for weeks and weeks. And within a few days, I finally wrote a message and was assured I would get a response within 24 hours. I never got a response. Never got a response from Main Street on my question of why is there not something on the Main Street Facebook page promoting the downtown trick or treat. It is one of the most attended things we have downtown, probably second only to the Christmas parade. I thought that the message would get through that something needs to be done, and lo and behold, the Christmas parade as well did not get a lot of promotion through the Main Street Facebook page. So I've been seeing a lot of lack of follow-through on Main Street, and I just cannot support $35,000 for them this year.
Thank you, David.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Stacy, do you have any comments?
So the Christmas parade, I do believe I'm seeing posts on our Facebook page. They were shared. Abby is also our events and marketing coordinator, is also a member of Heritage League. So I'm sure she cross-promoted. There was a message on our Facebook page about downtown trick or treat, and then it was deleted by, not by us. We were not able to read the message any longer.
It was sent as a direct message through Facebook Messenger. So the only person who would have been access to it is Main Street. And I actually have pictures taken of the weeks before, even up to the day before, of both of these events, of the Facebook page for Downtown Trick or Treat and Christmas Parade.
We have a Facebook event created for Downtown Trick or Treat that was out there the entire month of October. We are a sponsor of that event, so we have promoted it.
Well, Stacy, it says on the city Facebook page that it is powered by Main Street, and you have certain sponsors that sponsor the Downtown Trick or Treat, but it says powered by Main Street. That's what was on the city Facebook page.
You are correct.
And the specific Downtown Trick or Treat page you're referring to is never actually put on the Facebook page for Main Street. It is a separate page that hardly anybody knows about, and you can look at it because there's hardly anybody who's liked it or looked at it.
So several years ago, Main Street gave up the Downtown Trick or Treat as an event that we were managing. We put it back in our contract because we needed to become a sponsor for some specific reasons that I can address later if needed, but we do not have ownership of that event. So we did promote it. We did sponsor it so that they could get funds to purchase candy to give to the merchants, but it is not an event that we manage. Heather Lanker at the Brick Ballroom and Luke at Main Street Studios manage that event.
I understand they're the sponsors, and I understand for
They're
Main
not the
Street,
sponsors.
I understand for Main Street, they're the ones that handle it, but every promotion says powered by Main Street. So therefore, I think you guys dropped the ball on it. That's all I have to say. I've got pictures proving of what was not done, as well as the Christmas parade.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Lisa.
I did have a lot of people contact me over the trick-or-treating, so I did contact some Main Street board members who validated what was being said, and so I do have to say, David is telling the truth, but I believe that you guys, I did have, the Main Street board members did check it out and did not find the advertisements. I've had a lot of complaints that a lot of people have complained about the Chamber of Commerce, but they support the whole city. And Main Street is the one complaint I've received before I was elected 4 years ago, that it doesn't represent the city as a whole. It represents the downtown area. And I think that's been an issue for a lot of citizens. So when it does say powered by Main Street, they have an expectation that if we're going to give $35,000, that they should know when events are going on, and people don't feel like they're being told when events are going on.
I had also, Lisa, contacted a Main Street board member, and they were also kind of shocked that there was not something more promoting downtown trick or treat. And the only reason I looked into it is because of how many people were putting stuff on other pages saying, is there downtown trick or treat? We have no idea. We've looked everywhere. On top of that, I was a little disconcerted that the last meeting that the city held for the East Main Street Development Project, Main Street decided to contact all the businesses themselves and have their own private meeting before the public meeting. Just was the businesses. And I thought, that's really not in the spirit of why we're having an open public meeting to, in a way, direct all the businesses to be on the same page and be all in support of this. And I really thought it was, and the only way I knew about it, one of the businesses provided me a flyer. The flyer was taken around to these businesses and handed out and said, you need to show up because we're trying to get this pushed through. I did not feel that was Main Street's responsibility. So therefore, there's just been an awful lot of things this year that I cannot see city taxpayer dollars going to Main Street, Siloam Springs. And I will say, I have not been opposed to the job of Main Street. I've not been opposed to the purpose and the mission statement of Main Street. I was involved in Main Street when it first started. And it's come a long way, but it also seems to have gotten misrouted as to what its purpose is. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad?
Well, I feel like in the holiday spirit, perhaps I should say something positive about Main Street. So the positive thing will be for Main Street is I will be approaching you as a citizen in 2023 to work with the Moss House to clean the hillside by Chautauqua Amphitheater Memorial Park to get rid of your invasive species free of charge, because it has irritated me for 8 years since we completed that project. And that is such a glorious, and it's such a great spot. You got a great venue to set up at. It worked out well. And so that's what I will be doing for you guys going into next year. And hopefully meet with your board and you'll embrace that with open arms. And I don't expect you to provide any manual labor. That will be my last love gift to the city. But obviously you have some things to work with, and I'm sure Ken would be open to maybe helping you make those adjustments so you can meet and exceed the expectations of this board. Thank you.
But Brad, what has the Moss House got to do with Main Street?
Where their office is.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Mindy?
I just want to take this opportunity to say that I feel like the relationships and the contracts we have with all three of the entities we're talking about voting to continue contracts with are very important relationships to many people in the city of Siloam. The museum, the Main Street, and the Chamber all target different individuals, different businesses. I think it's important that the city work with all three of those organizations. And they are able to provide services that the city is not able to provide, thus the contracts that we have with each one of them. So communication is big, it's huge. I think we do need to make every effort we can to make sure that the citizens are aware of what's going on in these different venues. But I appreciate what all three of these organizations do, and I will continue to support all three.
Thank you, Mindy. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Reed?
I guess I have a question maybe for Philip or someone who may know. Do we, at this time, ask the three different economic development teams to give us a quarterly report?
We do require a quarterly report.
Okay. Thought it was required, but my request is that maybe in this next year that you not only give the report, but maybe give a little bit on what's forthcoming So when the report comes in September, you can say, yes, this is what we've done, and this is what we're planning to do, especially concerning the Halloween time and also the Christmas parade. So we can see what's upcoming and maybe look forward a little bit.
Thank you, Reed. Is there anyone else? If not, then David, I would ask, do you want to make an amendment to the resolution?
Mayor Nation?
May I address his last comment about, may I address the last comment about the meeting for East Main Street?
I'm sorry,
The comment about the meeting for East Main Street that we, so there's a perception that Main Street put together a secret meeting for the businesses, but we were asked through our contract in the Downtown Connectivity Master Plan to work on any project that is listed in that plan. The East Main project has been, it's been going on for several years. And when the public meeting was going to take place, part of our job is to go make sure all of those businesses knew about the public meeting. I believe city staff scheduled a meeting for just the business owners prior to the public meeting so they could get all of their questions answered. I would like to say that we encourage people to come and speak their voice, not our voice. We did not ask them to come and say, we're pushing this through, we want you there. We wanted their real voice heard. Do you want this or do you not want this? What works for you and what doesn't? And I also would like to apologize that we failed in communication in a couple of our events.
Thank you.
Well, I'll respond to that.
David?
If the city set up a separate meeting for the businesses only, that's news to me. Because the businesses were handed a flyer from Main Street, Stacy, that was provided and printed by Main Street, correct? The business owners believed this was set up by Main Street to promote the business's involvement and support of the East Main project. The only thing that was scheduled that the public knew about was a required public meeting to continue with the East Main project. Are you looking for support from city staff? It came off as, to the business owners, as if this was something that Main Street did, Main Street put together. And most frustrating was that our board knew nothing about it. That is the most frustrating. We were involved and understood and included for the public meeting, but it certainly seemed like this was a hidden agenda for the Main Street to go to each business and provide a flyer printed by Main Street that said, we want you here. And our board knew nothing about it. I had already emailed you about this, and you said it all had to do with the Downtown Connectivity Master Plan. I just don't see how having a private business-only meeting was part of that. And lastly, I don't understand how I can send a Facebook message through Messenger and you claim it got deleted. That's just frustrating.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Um,
Philip.
Could we ask Don Clark to come forward? I think Don could at least provide a little light. The city staff was in the driver's seat on the Main Street project. I believe, and Don can confirm this or not, that we asked Main Street to provide some assistance in that. And as Stacy indicated, I think staff's perspective was that having a meeting with just the business owners gave them a chance to voice their concerns, their opposition, one-on-one with staff. And if it was interpreted to be something different. I think that's more on staff than on Main Street, in my humble opinion, but I would ask Don to provide everybody with the context.
Mayor, can I say
Yes.
something before Don does?
Yes,
Because it can
absolutely,
answer.
Lisa.
I did have 2 businesses contact me, and they were furious. They were, I still have I kept it, because I kept what they wrote to me. They were mad. And they did blame Main Street, and whether they were wrong or right, I don't know. But the ball was dropped, and I don't want us to pretend it wasn't, because the business owners have every right to be mad. If they call me and say, are you gonna be at this meeting? And I'm saying, I don't even know what you're talking about. They have every right to be furious, that they feel like they're not being represented. When we are elected to represent them, as well as the citizens, whether they live within the city limits or not, they have a business in this community. And so that did occur, and somebody dropped the ball on it, and I don't know if it was Main Street but the perception was from the business owners that it was Main Street, because Main Street handed out the flyers and did the communication. There was not communication with the city to the business owners. They let Main Street do that. That was another complaint that I received. So,
Don Clark, Community Development Director. So the public meeting, the intent of the public meeting, after we had the workshop, the charrette, some of the concerns we heard at the time after we approached the board was that maybe some of the businesses weren't heard, or they were in meetings where they didn't feel comfortable speaking out loud. So when we scheduled the second meeting, it was our intention to give them that opportunity for their voices to be heard, to have one-on-one with the designers and the consultants along with us as well. The decision to include Main Street into making sure that the businesses were aware is that some of those businesses had changed hands. So we didn't want to send communication to one address, but the renter not get the information from the building owner. So Main Street helped us to make sure that those who were occupying the structures were at the meeting. The goal was just for that, for their voices to be heard, not for anybody to try to persuade them. We got a lot of positive and truthful feedback. We would suggest the meeting would have been a public meeting if we notified the board. So the decision was made by staff to say, okay, it would be a separate meeting. They could stay and hang over to the public meeting where the board members would be represented. I think a number of you were there to display any concerns to that board at that time, but we wanted to make sure, because what we heard as a critique was that those that own businesses along that corridor didn't feel like they had an opportunity to be heard. So to piggyback what we did during the design phase, when we had one-on-one meetings with those property owners and the designers, we wanted to give them that same thing again and to let them have that one-on-one meeting with the designers as well as with the consultant as well as us of any concerns they have. Some of the things we heard where they were worried about their interest to their buildings, deliveries, trucks, things of that nature, which would be specific information for the design in that corridor that would be separate from the public because they have intimate knowledge of what was going on in that corridor. So that was the intention of the meeting. And yes, we asked Main Street to assist to make sure we didn't miss anybody.
Do you think it was wise, Don, to not let the board know about it?
Again, our intent was for it to be a meeting that they had one-on-one. And from what I understood, if we notified the board, we had to notify the public, and then it wouldn't be a private meeting, which was what we were told would be good for us to do.
Director Allen,
Yes.
if I may, Don, can you pull that whole thing back? So Director Allen, can I? Can see you. I know, but I can't make sure I'm in the mic. I think the answer to your question is yes, it was an oversight. I don't believe that, I believe we could have informed the board that we were having a meeting, but not, and you may disagree with me on here, but not invite the board because as Don said, inviting the board, 2 of you more are there, then it becomes a public meeting. And the intent was to try to have one-on-one conversations with the designers, with the owners of those businesses. But not informing the board that we were having that meeting would be an oversight, no doubt.
Thank you, Don. So, David, I would ask, do you want to make a motion to amend the resolution for the amount for Main Street?
No, I just don't believe Main Street is who should be, letter B in their contract, downtown and connectivity, master plan, communication, coordination, should not be Main Street Siloam Springs. Main Street Siloam Springs was developed, designed, originated to promote downtown economic development, historic preservation, working with business owners to do the best for their building and help them preserve their building, do whatever, grants, etc. Public event promotion, etc. But downtown connectivity in the master plan was never the reason Main Street Siloam Springs was set up. And at one point, it got added in here, and that's how they got pulled into this by city staff, apparently. And it's not good.
Yes, Philip?
City staff responsibility,
sorry?
not Main Street. That is city staff responsibility.
Director Allen,
Yes.
and back to the mayor's question, would removing Section B from their contract be acceptable?
Did you say letter B?
Yes, sir.
For future prevention of confusion, yes. I don't think it fixes the problem of promoting downtown events, which I've seen this year, but that definitely would help the problem of what we've gone through here with Don explaining what happened.
So I believe that because of this conversation and discussion, I think that Main Street has a clear understanding of what this board's expectations are for this next year. So I would ask then, would you like to make a motion to amend Resolution 70-22 to remove Section B? Do I hear a motion for that? If I do not, do I have a motion to approve item I, Resolution 70-22, as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
No.
Allen,
No.
Carroll.
Yes.
I believe motion fails.
The motion failed?
Yes.
Yes.
Failed on a vote of 3 to 3, 4, and 2 against. You need 4 for approval.
So, Philip, I suppose then we will leave that to you to perhaps work with Main Street and bring something back to this board for the contract, because as it stands now, that contract's not approved, and is that correct?
You are correct that the contract has not been approved, yes.
Okay, all right. So, next.
By my
I'm sorry.
understanding, the only way a new service agreement can be brought back is next year as an adjustment to the budget.
I believe that's probably right. Is that correct, Jay, since it has failed?
If it was substantially the same contract, that's correct. Some sort of a revised contract could possibly be brought forward with different terms, or the board, could elect to bring it back, or one of the members that voted in the, it's weird to say in the minority, but one of that was on the prevailing side, could bring it back for reconsideration, say under different terms. So there are some ways that it could be brought back, but not this same proposal until next year.
But even if it's reconsidered, is there not a 60-day requirement to wait? That's why I said it couldn't be considered until next year.
Right, in 2020, 2023, but I'm not aware of a 60-day requirement, no. But I can check that for sure.
Thank you, Jane. So at this time, as it stands, that contract was not approved. So we will move on to our regularly scheduled items. We will begin with contracts, recording and broadcasting equipment upgrade, City Hall Boardroom, Howard Technology Solutions, $123,522.57. Anthony?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Board. Anthony Stokes, IT Manager, City of Siloam Springs. Tonight, I'll be going over some of the history with the current audio-video system in the boardroom and discussing some of the key components listed in Howard Technology Solutions proposal. Getting started, the current system was originally installed in 2014. Later in 2015, staff added the live stream online service to stream city meetings over the internet. In 2016, City Hall was hit by a lightning strike, which destroyed over half the equipment for the boardroom audio video system. Staff then worked to get all the destroyed equipment, meaning any equipment that would not turn on, replaced. And in early 2017, the city moved to Granicus, replacing Livestream, and we believe this is because the streaming device was damaged by that same lightning strike. By mid-2017, system issues became so frequent that staff decided to have the system reassessed. The system was then streamlined by removing any unnecessary equipment, and the system's original routing and cabling was fixed. By around 2018, 2019, staff couldn't really pinpoint a time frame on this. We moved to YouTube, away from Granicus, primarily because staff was informed that our live streams or recordings needed to include closed captioning. Granicus does provide this. This is just some from a memo that staff has found, and we checked in with Granicus, and they offer the service, but it would have been at an additional cost to the annual renewal fee, whereas YouTube offers the service for free. Throughout the evolution of our current system, staff has always seemed to have some system issues with the audio-video system. As you can see, here are some of those issues listed. Sometimes these issues are fixed simply by restarting the system. However, staff is unable to restart the system mid-meeting. So around 2020, staff decided to, again, look into upgrading and refreshing some of the system's equipment and some of the capabilities in the process.
Anthony, could you pull the mic a little closer to you, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Staff then got together and set up a set list of goals in looking for a new system. Primarily, we wanted to replace a lot of the outdated and malfunctioning equipment. We wanted streams and recordings to look more professional and have a higher resolution. We wanted to find a system that was future-proofed and would allow us to add on in the future if we desired. We wanted to find a system that recorded votes, and this was primarily to help make it easier for citizens to see how each member had voted. We also were trying to streamline the process, hopefully streamlining the process of the voting in the boardroom. We wanted to find a system that was easy to operate for our operator in the back, and if you could see the juggling act that goes on back there, you would understand why that was kind of a priority for us. We also wanted for outside entities to remotely present to the board if needed. That's been we've had a couple requests for this from several people. Thank you. Staff then put all of our goals outlined here into an RFP. We then submitted that as directed. We received 3 responses to that request. After going over each proposal, staff decided that Howard Technology Solutions was the best system for the boardroom. But instead of rejecting all other proposals, we then went back out to the other 2 companies and requested that they update their proposals to better fit the city's needs. After we received the updated proposals, staff went through each proposal again. We then came to the conclusion that Howard Technology Solutions continued to be the best system to use in the boardroom. Getting a little into the technical side of the proposal, here you'll see the wireless microphones with touchscreen voting. These devices include a battery pack, selectable LED activity indicators, and RFD cards for accurate voting. Here you will see the 3 options for button layouts. You have a 2-button option, 3-button option, and 5-button option. These will be displayed on the touch screen you see to the right on the base. And after votes are cast, the system will tally those votes and display them here on the voting screen, which we will display on these main displays. Staff is going to work with the installer here to hone in on this portion right here that lists how each person has voted. And I will note that I had no say in how each member voted on this. This was done by the presenter. So there was no say by IT or staff on that. Here you'll see 2 cameras. The camera on the left is the original camera proposed by Howard Technology Solutions. Staff realized that this camera far exceeds the city's needs in this room. So we tried to value engineer and work with Howard Technology to propose a camera that better suits this room, and we had them update their proposal to include a 20x zoom camera. This singular update drove the cost of this system well below everyone else's proposals. This device here is the system control tablet. This device simply turns the system on and off. It'll mute and unmute the mics for us, and it adjusts the mic volume. And finally, we have the video source switching device. This controls all the video sources going out to broadcast and stream. It previews and seamlessly switches the video sources, so there will be no more black screen when we transition between cameras and the presentation computers as well. This will select the camera presets for us and adjust the camera positions with the joystick all in one device, making the system rather easy to use for us. So, with all that said, staff recommends the board approve the contract with Howard Technology Solutions, and staff is available for any further questions.
Thank you, Anthony. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this contract for the recording and broadcasting equipment?
Yes.
Yes, come forward. Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, I'm Bill O'Hare, 23577 Sycamore Heights here in Siloam Springs. I'm also the owner of Wiltec Enterprises in Siloam Springs. just wanted to say when this bid first came out, we were the low bid out of the 3 companies. And then it went to be engineered differently. And then the Howard came down about $26,000 and we went up just a little bit and the other company came down. But it's, there's a lot of difference we were asked to do a service contract. That's very vague as to what that actually means. And so that's kind of what put us a little bit higher. Basically, there's a bunch of other differences, and since I only have 3 minutes, I'm just going to say, hey, we are here in Siloam Springs. We appreciate doing work for the city and for other places in Siloam Springs. All our staff lives in Siloam Springs, and we love the city. And if Howard is better, then so be it. But I don't think that's the case. I think we can do a better job, and we can provide a better system. So that's all I have to say right now, and I will be available if the staff or if the board has any questions or any other things that need to be answered.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? If not, board, questions, comments?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, David.
I have some questions. Anthony, how does Howard Technology Solutions out of Laurel, Mississippi plan to be here on a moment's notice to fix a problem?
Absolutely. They do have staff that reside in the state of Arkansas.
Where?
Currently, their staff is out of Little Rock. So they have been able to be very attentive to our needs, be here within a reasonable amount of time. We're not asking for them to be here. I want you here at this moment, at all times. They are available to be here within a few business
In
days.
the August 16th meeting that you had preferred Howard because you'd worked with them before, I assume that means that they've worked on our computers. Is that correct?
No, sir. Those are Howard Technology Solutions. They have provided us a few solutions for other things. It's primarily just equipment was what they were selling us, and this is the first time. So in the past, they've sold us a kiosk to use for online surveys. They've worked a little bit on this system. They've included a couple of these wireless mics that you see floating around into the system. Other than that, we primarily will use them as to get quotes for other hardware, such as servers and switches. However, a lot of the times they're not able to be the low bidder on that one, so we have to say sorry. We got to move on.
I'm talking about you've used them for the computer system. You said servers.
Sometimes they have never. I don't believe we have ever purchased
But
a
that's
server
how you
from
know them,
Howard.
is what I'm saying. That's how you know the company.
Partly, yes.
Because their letterhead has so many different things, but it doesn't have anything to do with AV systems.
Right.
When I'm looking through this proposal, the actual contracts that I asked Mr. Patterson to send us, we got the details of the equipment and everything that came with their original contract. And none of what you have said as part of the job scope involving Creston and some other things is in that contract. It's not listed. There's other companies named in that equipment, but not Creston. I'm also very, very concerned when you state in your memo, Howard's first proposal included 4K cameras with 1080p resolution. A 4K camera doesn't have 1080p resolution.
That is correct. And what that gets at is how far that camera can zoom in while keeping it 1080p resolution. So it can zoom in 40 times while keeping 1080p resolution. And I think that's why they proposed it, because we said we want to be able to see everything.
Mr. O'Hare provided cameras at 12x zoom, and I can tell you, I don't think that camera up there needs to zoom 40 times or even 20 times to my face or anybody's face. The other thing I'll say, in your paragraph, you said staff has also asked Howard to reduce the amount of their contingency fee to place the overall total under what staff originally budgeted for this project. Anthony, I don't know if anybody's told you, but it is not the job or responsibility of city staff to go and rejigger a contract proposal to come in under budget. If it's over budget, that's it. That's their proposal. You've gone back to one company and given them the opportunity to make changes. That's what you just said, sir. You just put it in your memo that you asked them to change. You worked with them to change
yes, sir,
their contingency fee.
I did do that after we internally selected that company. We were trying to value engineer. I checked in with multiple
If you
people.
selected the company before they changed their contingency fee, then they were over the budget amount, and therefore they should not have been chosen. The other thing you may not be aware of is the city has a law, an ordinance that was passed, I'm not sure how long ago, but we give favorability treatment to any local companies within 10%. Therefore, if Wheeltech was not the lowest bid by the 10% requirement, then the other company in Northwest Arkansas would have been. The fact is, with the 10% allowance, Wheeltech is by far the cheapest bid. And what you stated in your memo, that you actually asked these two other companies, CAS and Wheeltech, to go and change their bid to abide by what Howard Technology Solutions is, sounds like that you were specifically expecting one certain list of equipment. And
Not necessarily. The updates that I asked that
listen,
Wheeltech.
I've heard you say not necessarily before in another meeting, and I'm trying to just explain where I'm seeing some discrepancies. In the original email that was sent from Howard Technology Solutions on September 21st, there is nothing listed here that is Creston branded, which you state in your memo will be. There is a lot of Creston listed in the...
It should be the CP4 system. Yes, sir.
Can I figure that finish? There are Creston branded stuff in the CAS proposal and in the Wheeltech proposal, but there's nothing Creston here. And to see that you actually went and asked these companies to adjust their proposals based upon what you had seen Howard and you wanted Howard, it almost seems the other way around. It almost seems like you asked Howard to come back with something based upon what Wheeltech and CAS had done, because in your memo proposal, you bring up the job scope involves Creston equipment. Is that not true?
No, sir, it is not. We did not reach out to Howard whatsoever to update their proposal until after we selected them internally.
You can't do that, Anthony.
And it's the
You cannot
reason I
ask them to change
believe.
their proposal after you've chosen them. If Wheeltech Enterprises was given the local 10% allowance, even based upon the vague service contract you've included, they are down to 116, which is the lowest bid. Howard Technology, you have listed in the RFP tabulation at 123, which I'm not sure how they got to, because I've seen three different numbers from Howard. What I understand that when the bids were open, they were at 142,000. Is that correct?
Yes, the bid was opened, and the reason that was at that price was because they had a typo in their original proposal. I brought this up as I was going through their proposals, and I noticed, like, why is the service contract 10 times higher than the last time you proposed this in the contract I included in our last board meeting I was included in. And they looked it over and said, oh, we had a typo, and they sent us a new one. And they included sales tax as well. Because I mentioned over the phone, I'm like, I don't know if this includes...
It certainly seems like you are going the extra mile to help Howard Technology, and it just doesn't seem like a lot of sense to say they opened at 142, but after you allowed them to come in and make some changes and then change their fee that you had them at whatever, that now they're down to 123, and they're still not the lowest price.
No, sir.
CAS is the lowest price.
CAS is the lowest price, but they also don't include a contingency fee in their
I can't hear
proposal.
you.
Sorry. CAS is the lowest, but they also don't include a contingency fee, whereas Howard and Wiltech both do.
Director Allen?
I'm still asking some questions.
No, I just want to make a clarification on what you said, if I may. Two things. We did a request for proposal rather than a strict bid, so that gave some latitude to be able to negotiate. But also, Director Allen, the city code is 5% with a maximum of $500 allowance for local bidders, not 10% per city code.
I wonder when that changed.
It was adopted that way when it was originally adopted, when the state allowed for a preference for local contractors. It was never changed after that.
I have a real hard time giving a business of this magnitude to a company that also was the sole provider of a quote in August. And now it just is convenient that they're getting it again when we have two local companies, one in Springdale and one in Siloam, that are very close in price and would be able to get here quickly anytime we had a problem. Wiltech owner, this is his hometown. He's raised his family here. He's got other employees that very same situation. And I just don't see risking having somebody in Little Rock be able to get here on a moment's notice. The lightning strike that happened, I know the history of that, and I know that Bill O'Hare was making things work even at the last minute to just allow it to work for the meeting. And I also know the history of Sam D just being told, well, just find somebody else. I think we have a local company that ought to be considered more instead of simply wanting to direct it to somebody that you are comfortable and have worked with. There's other things I don't quite understand. When I was told about this project originally, I understood the TVs would be replaced. Why are we using 1080p TVs? Why would we not be replaced for $120-something thousand? Why would we not be replacing these with 4K televisions? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would we be keeping any of the cameras? Are we keeping any of the cameras?
No, sir, we are not.
So we're adding two,
And replacing two, yes, sir.
replacing two.
Yes, sir.
So there's 3 cameras, right? Is there 3 or 2?
There's two, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I am concerned also with the cameras. I do not want us to be getting cameras that are proprietary, that are expensive, and can only be fixed by one company, and they're hard to get hold of. And I've heard that's what Allegiant cameras are.
These are Vadio cameras, sir.
Good. I hope not. I've heard that about Allegiant cameras, and that we were looking at purchasing them, and I hope that's not the case. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor.
Brad, can I let Lisa go? She's tried
I'm
twice
sorry,
now.
my mic,
No,
my
that's
mic
fine.
is so close you can hear me now. I was worried.
No, I can hear you. Thank you. But keep it up to your mouth. We appreciate that. Lisa?
I just have a couple of questions.
Ma'am.
You mentioned Granicus.
Yes, ma'am.
Did we contact them, and do we know the price?
Yes, we did reach out again just to get an updated price on their system. It was for everything that we would need to do that's included in this proposal. It would be an additional $45,000. Obviously, we wouldn't go with the same voting mics if we went with Granicus, but that would only reduce the cost to about $5,000 for this proposal.
It
If that
would
makes sense.
reduce the-
So if we didn't go with this voting system, it would reduce the cost by maybe $5,000.
Oh, with Granicus.
Yes,
voting
and then
system.
on top of the proposal, Granicus would then add an additional 45 just to incorporate the service. And then we would also have to include tablets and laptops for all members who will be voting.
Okay, because I have to say, I've been exactly where you're at. I wrote that RFP before for another city, for a boardroom. And I'll be honest, Wiltec was selected. They were local. That was the #1 decision when they went to the meeting. They were local, and they did an amazing job. I've worked with Wiltec here, and I've worked with them at the city of Fayetteville. And like I said, local is important to me because they give back to our community. And I'm not saying Howard doesn't, but I'm saying they give to our baseball teams. They give to our local Manna Center. And there was only, if you count the other company, there's a 5% difference, and they are local. And I'm not saying anything about Howard. I can't criticize them. I'm not going to because I don't know their work. I can say that I do know Wiltec's work. I have a question. You said on the RFP, when you write an RFP, you're specific. Like you're not specific to say, I want this brand, because that's not how an RFP is supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to get the idea, the general idea. So whenever Wiltec and the other company came back and you didn't like, obviously, what they said, did they not meet the standard RFP?
So all companies, more or less, were able to meet our goals. It's just Howard Technology Solutions was able to shine through. They provided that professional video that we're looking for, the video switching. And at that point, that's when we decided, hey, we want to give local vendors another chance here. So we did reach out and say, hey, please provide this functionality to where we can switch video sources with one device as well.
So Wiltec will not do that, and the other
So
companies will not.
With Wiltec's system, it was all going through the matrix. Their updated proposal all went through the matrix. And that would achieve, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So after they updated it,
Okay.
sorry. So after it was updated, everything was being routed through the matrix, is how it was.
So what about their
shown.
first proposal? Was it like
Their
that
first
in the
proposal? Not necessarily. So the first proposal included multiple devices, and it would add to not necessarily the complexity, it would add an extra step in there with the PTZ controller that they had on the side. And that's why we didn't want to have that in there, because our operator right now is doing tons of things mid-transition. So that was the reason staff decided to go away from, or say, to kind of say, let's try to update it. And Wiltec did do that, however, on their second proposal. However, there's when you do in the manner that they run all the video sources through the matrix, when you select that option, it brings up a black screen. And it's present when we transition between the lectern computer and our presentation computer. You'll see it up here. That's the same thing that goes out. And that's something we're trying to eliminate.
And we asked Wiltec, is there a way to program that out?
I don't think we asked Wiltec. I didn't know if I could. So I didn't want to break any rules. Since I'm new, I didn't know if I could reach out and say, hey, is there a way to do this? I was just I think I was more focused on updating the proposals to include or have everything run from one video switcher. And then the difference between Wiltec's and Howard's is Howard's no longer provides that black screen.
Okay, so but you don't know if Wiltec does that or not?
It should. That's been corroborated, or not corroborated. We know if it runs through the matrix, it has to provide a black screen.
But there's no resource to get rid of the black screen?
I don't think, unless they can code it out of the controlling system, which I don't think they can. I think there has to be a delay there on that switch. That delay there is what's causing that black screen.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
You feel like you could go back to Howard's and asked them questions, but you didn't feel like you could go
So
back to the
I went
local
back to
company?
I went back to Howard's after I had everyone else updated, and the only thing I changed with Howard's was that camera. I did not have them change anything else.
I would,
other
just
than that
for
camera.
future reference,
Mhm.
because if you bring other stuff too,
Mhm.
one of the things I had to do in your position
Sure.
is I had to document. So if anybody ever came back, so when when you went to Howard and they said that, the best thing you could, when they said that they did the number wrong, that they typed, there was a typo.
Yes.
That typo should have been recorded. Because
Mhm.
now when we're looking at it, we're looking at, oh, wait a minute, you just
So-
helped them drop their number by $20,000.
Absolutely, that was my fault. I'm sorry I didn't bring that to the board.
Right, I'm just telling
No,
you. Because
absolutely. Thank you.
That is, and then we have to answer to the citizens, and
That makes sense. I apologize for that. Yes, it is that I do have that documented. It's in paper form with notes attached to that as well, outlining the original proposals, updated proposals, and then the final proposal there.
I do appreciate that you're looking into this.
Mhm.
I'm very familiar with Granicus. Like I said, I'm very familiar with Will Tech's work. I'm not familiar with ones in Springdale. I do like local. Sorry, I do take preference over local, and a lot of cities are doing that because of the economy and because it brings back to the community. And so, but I appreciate you answering all my questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brad?
Madam Mayor, I just want to say, remember what I said at the last meeting that you were up here and you had to bring it back?
Yes, sir.
It's nice. It's nice when a guy steps up and then you get raked. I love it. I don't know anything about this. I know we're in a social media world and this is turning into an entertainment show, and it's important to people out there in the community. They hear us and see us. And whoever replaces me, I hope Ken, you may have to groom his beard. There's some things they're going to see about you they're not going to like. You grow your hair out. They start talking about you. So I don't like to do any of that on social media. I do it right here. And so it brought back because Director Allen and Rissler had these concerns. I have zero concerns over any of this. This is not my realm. So I'm going to ask you to step aside, sir, and I would like to talk to Bill O'Hara.
Sure.
Madam Mayor, is that possible?
Yes, sir, you may talk
No
to Mr.
question.
O'Hare.
Yes, sir.
Bill, our relationship is long as volunteers at the Siloam Fire Department. So when did you first, when did you first get a contract with the city? Do you recall?
Oh, I don't. Yeah, long time ago.
Long time ago. And how long have you provided that service, sir?
Ever since then, 20 years, 25 years, something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else?
I've
That
got a
wasn't more
question.
complicated, man. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I was looking for something more difficult. Do I have a
Thank you.
chance to respond to any of that?
I was going to ask you a question, Bill, if you want to respond to that.
Okay, sure.
You were initially involved when this building was built, correct?
Yes, correct.
Paid $1 million cash when we built this building under Mark Latham's administration. And you were involved in all the technology, the phone systems, everything.
Correct.
And when I asked you in August of this year, why did you not bid on this? You said you didn't know anything about it. You said, it's no big deal. I do so much business with Bentonville and everything. I would love to deal with the city of Siloam because it's my home. And I'm proud of Siloam and the contributions that me and my employees have done for many other businesses and the fact I've raised my family here. When I learned in August that the bid had been geared to one company and we decided to reject the bids and start over, I didn't call you and say, hey, be sure and bid on this. I hoped you would, and I was pleased you did, but I didn't reach out to you because I thought it's now wide open. If Bill wants to do it, he's going to hear about it. I do appreciate what you have done for this city as well as the city of Siloam Springs. I regret how hard a job you worked fixing the lightning strike and trying to repair the equipment, things that I have some experience. You don't know always everything that lightning has gone to. I mean, sometimes you find stuff long later that you had no idea that lightning had reached, because it's hard to figure that out on day one. But you put your time into it and you worked on it, and I appreciated that a great deal. Before you address what you wish to address, of which I'm going to ask you about something else, I will remind this board that in August, we had Lisa, Director Rissler, and Director Hunt ask to see the equipment, to actually, whether it was virtual or in person, actually said it'd be great if we could see this before we buy it. And Anthony said, yep, I can provide something for you. Bill, you go right ahead. If you want to talk about something that was said a moment ago regarding your bid, go right ahead.
Well, just one thing quickly. As far as the lightning strike, we did take care of it and bend over backwards to try to take care of the city. I understand the position
pull your mic closer.
I do understand the position of if things are lingering on, get somebody else in to take care of it. I get that. We are that second company that comes in on situations that some of our competitors have done. So I understand that completely. We just want the confidence to have, to be able to come in and do a job for the city. Just getting to the technical side of things, the way that the old system handles HDMI, yes, it has to black the screen. The new NVXs that both commercial audio and Wiltec has specified, and then later Howard has changed to the NVX system as well. It doesn't specify, or it doesn't do the blank of the audio, so it would be a seamless switching. When we first saw the RFP, our first instinct was a joystick controller for the cameras. We asked about that. They said no. RFP, everything has to be on one touch screen. Control the cameras, control the switching, the audio, everything on one touch screen. We met with Chris. Is that who the operator? The new guy in the IT department who does AV. We met with him and told him our idea of having a joystick controller to do the cameras. He loved the idea. He said, "Thank you, someone that finally understands what I'm wanting here." And we told him so we bid to the RFP, which did not include that. When we were asked to rebid a couple other things, it wasn't clear that it was okay to have two sources. It still said that it had to be one device that did all the switching. So that's where we left off on the bid. Our original bid was actually, without making that change, was actually $1,000 less, roughly $1,000 less. So, and one other point that I want to look at is we were also asked at that time to provide a service contract. Service contracts are very ambiguous. It could be $10,000 and provide all equipment, all service, everything. Or it could be $1,000 and you get $10 off on your hourly rate. So to include a service contract in with the total price for a year, that's just all over the board. Ideally, this system would have been an RFP. I feel like it's more an RFQ, a request for a quote on everybody designing their own system. It'd be nice to have the system designed with either product or like approved product, and then it's easier to compare apples for apples. If the staff and the board is comfortable comparing what's actually there, both commercial audio and us provided very similar systems to what what the RFP said. Anyway, that's all I have, unless anyone has any other questions for me.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I was in the middle of my discussion. In terms of what I thought from the August meeting, I thought we were going to be provided some display of what we were going to be using. And from that discussion, we were told that the voting software was separate. We asked to actually see the physical product or virtually. I've asked, why are the TVs not being replaced? Not getting an answer to that. And yeah, Brad, I do recall what you said when Anthony was up there in August. You said, I prefer you because you're a former Marine. And I am stunned to hear you say that we're just setting this up as an entertainment show. The reason I asked for it to be rejected or tabled at the last meeting that it was discussed was because it is too important. We do not replace this stuff every year or every 5 years, and it needs to be done right. I do not believe Howard Technology Solutions is an AV specialist. When you read the history of their company, which is provided, it says specifically they started as a transformer, distribution transformer, got into trucking, got into technology, billion-dollar company owned by 2 people, but they're out of Laurel, Mississippi. And the closest person that's going to be able to come and access this is in Little Rock. Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this with the amendment that we give the contract to Wheeltech.
We have a motion to approve with the award being given to Wheeltech. Before I ask for a second, Philip?
Madam Mayor, Director Allen, before you receive a second on that, I would like to offer a suggestion. Before you made your motion, I was going to suggest that you allow staff to pull this completely off the agenda and go to a straight bid. Part of the going to the request for proposal, as Director Ressler made clear earlier, was to try to say, here's what we want, but we don't know exactly the components, the specs, the specifications of each of those components of what we want. And I think having today the responses from the 3 different companies, staff can write a very clear list of specs and ask those companies and others to bid specifically on that and get a hard bid that is very clear to the specs that are provided in the bid. If that is something that is acceptable to the board, that would be what I would ask you to consider.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
before a decision, can I ask a question? So when you do an RFQ and an RFP, before you make a decision, do you not generally get your questions answered so you can make the best decision? I guess I've never seen where you waited till you made a selection and then ask all the questions. That's kind of backwards, because then you don't know all the answers and you're making a selection.
Well, on the RFP is different because it's professional services and you can't base anything on price, right? You base it on qualifications.
Right.
Request for RFQ, excuse me, request for qualifications.
Right.
The RFP, I think, you know, the way that I was taught to do it would be that I base everything on the proposal and determine what's the best proposal and grade them that way, and then grade it on price. And once I choose that this is the one that I think is the best for the city and whatever the case is, then there gives still some latitude there because it's not a hard bid, it's a request for proposal. So as in the case of the camera, reduce the camera from a 40x to a 20x zoom because that's, over-engineered in that case. Going to a bid, you're not able to do that. You set the specs, and you know this, I'm preaching to the choir. You set the specs very clear. These are whether it's a video source switching device made by, I don't know the name of the company, ABC company, this model, this version, these specs, and then ask for the bid for that.
Right.
So that way it's a very clear apples to apples comparison.
Okay.
And that's where I think this one came into play where all three companies provided a proposal, but it was difficult to do an apples to apples comparison. And that's what Anthony was trying to do with going back to the other two companies to say, can you do this so that we are trying to compare apples to apples?
Okay, so when I would do RFPs, and I've done them for the city of Siloam and the city of Fayetteville, if I had questions beyond the RFPs that we received, we would write the questions out, and all companies that submitted would answer those questions, because there's no way I was going to make a decision on partial information. I couldn't make a decision on partial information and then take it to the city directors and ask them to make a decision on based off partial information. And so I think I'm curious, how many RFPs have you done?
This would be my, I guess, technically second
Okay.
RFP, including the first one. So that got kicked back.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's for the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I was just curious. I do feel like we need to give training on RFQs and RFPs, obviously, because the laws are so, we want to stay within the definition, and I've done a lot of RFPs. I didn't do so many RFQs, but I have done a lot of RFPs. So I think that to take it back to bid is just going back to where we can select the same company. I'm not trying to be rude or mean. I just feel like it's just another way to reroute this again to try to get back to the same company.
I'm not trying to go back to the same company by any means. I think going to a bid provides every company an opportunity to meet a clear list of specifications. And then you base everything on price at that point. Not on proposals, not on design. It's a very clear apples to apples comparison because everybody's bidding on the same. You don't have to have the same pieces of equipment per se, but the same technology pieces of equipment do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's strictly a board decision. That, based on the discussion, I was going to suggest that until Director Allen made the motion, and I just wanted to put it out there as an option.
Well, what's the qualifications for, and I'm not, because I don't know you, so this is not personal. What is the qualifications of our staff on this specific project?
The qualifications of staff would be all the IT.
What makes them qualified to do a specific room like this? Like, have you done another room like this?
Personally, if I set one up, is that what you're asking?
Have you bid, RFP'd, have you worked, have you done any of that?
Not in audio video. My background's mainly in networking and server administration.
Which is different.
However, we do have some staff who have immense knowledge in audio video systems, and that's who I was relying on personally to help me fill in on a lot of the questions that I had. Well, what about this? And I would defer those questions to the two operators who have had a lot of
knowledge in that area.
Yes,
and that
ma'am.
was my question, is
Absolutely.
do we have staff? Because everybody looks at
Now-
IT and they say, oh, well, you have experience in IT. Well, there's hardware, there's software, there's all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. And I will note, I will say the operators would not be able to program the system, which is why we set out to ask for somebody else to come in and actually do the programming portion and running the cabling, because there's not very many IT staff. We don't have time to properly set up the system in here.
Right.
So there is that as well.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mindy.
Are you done, Director Ristler? Okay. I appreciate the work you've done on this. We've given us a lot of information to consider. You have more experience with an RFP than I do, so no complaints there. The three companies that did get back with us did what they were asked to do twice. I'm not comfortable going back and asking for more information at this point. I think we have a history with Wiltec. We've gotten the information from the other companies. There's a strong sentiment with going local.
Correct.
And I understand that.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's a little late to go back and ask for more information at this point.
Possibly. So, and the reason I say possibly is with our new addition to our team, who has a ton of knowledge in this area, he would know more about something. While we were putting this RFP together, we were kind of going off of old research with people who knew less about audio video equipment.
Anthony, I'm sorry, please speak into the mic.
Yes.
Louder, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So we may be able to update it a little bit better to where it'll provide even more functionality with this. It may end up costing less, may cost a little more. I think it was this. We researched it a little bit on the side, and I believe there might be a way to.
But it's still
Keep it.
going back and asking these three companies to give us information for a third time.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
Hey, Anthony, you know, there's an acronym, and I won't repeat it here, but you know what it is. It's 4 digits, and you just got one of those digits, one of those numerical numbers. And that's just how it rolls, brother. And I appreciate you stepping up for Sam. But, I've got simple math. I remember when Moose was the mayor, and we ran some simple, he used to run numbers, remember, throw numbers out when you guys were board members. I was at the firehouse watching it. We're about $4,000 minus the 5%. If we haven't picked up the vibe of this board, is that they want to go with a local resource, and that's Wiltec. And I'm going to give a second to David on that one and move this ball forward.
So I have a motion to approve the recording and broadcasting equipment upgrade with the award going to Wiltec. And I have a motion and a second to that effect. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt. Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved, awarded to Wiltec. Thank you, Anthony.
No problem. Thank you.
Anthony. Anthony, you got thrown in the 12-foot deep end.
But you did good.
But you did good.
Well, thank you. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Next is item P, Public Works Department Wastewater Division Engineering Services for 30% design for the Headworks improvements, McClelland Engineering Consultants, $120,000. Steve, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Steve Gorzek, Public Works Director. Let me adjust the mic real quick. That's a little better. Okay. What I have for you, the first item anyway I have for you this evening for your consideration is the approval or to approve McClelland Engineering Consultants to do up to 30% design on improvements to the headworks at the wastewater treatment plant. I want to give you a little history. The treatment plant went through a major upgrade in the mid-2000s, and the plant went online around 2009. So we've got equipment that's starting to age, and we've got some areas in the plant that need some attention, and this happens to be one of them. The headworks at any treatment plant is the location where all the wastewater enters the treatment plant. And two things happen. There's two components to a headworks. The first is screening. The wastewater that's coming in is screened of all the debris that's floating around in the water. The most common that everybody can seem to relate to anymore are the so-called flushable wipes. and just for the record, a golf ball is flushable too. But the flushable wipes, we get a lot of those. Now, after the screening, there's grit removal, and grit is sand and dirt and coffee grounds and anything that basically, if the water were to slow down a little bit, it'll drop out. We want to focus our attention this time with the screening because we're encountering problems at the treatment plant with lines plugging up, pumps plugging. In fact, Tony was just showing me some pictures of a pump they had to pull apart, and they had just a wad of mess that got through the existing bar screen. So we need to take care of that. Now, I pointed out in the staff report that the original intention of this whole thing was in when we were planning the 2022 budget back in the summer of 2021, all we were going to do is replace the 2 screens that are currently there. Now, I will point out that when the plant was upgraded in 2009, only 1 new screen was put in, and the existing one was left as is. That existing one hasn't worked since I've been here. So we only have 1 screen. So what we want to do is replace both of those screens and have some redundancy. Plus, we can run both screens when we get heavy rain events where we've got a lot of water coming into the treatment plant. We can screen using both screens. The current screen we have is called a step screen, and it's about a 6 millimeter screen, which means it's roughly a 1/4 of an inch gap in the bars. But it's known as a step screen, and the best analogy I can come up with on a step screen is an escalator. If you picture getting on an escalator, you hurry up and step on the step, and then the next one is already raised above it, and the next one comes up behind you, and so on. This step screen operates the same way, except where you usually see the space between the steps on an escalator filled in, the gap between the steps on a step screen are open. So every time the screen tries to come on or is called to come on, it raises up and it leaves a gap. And since the treatment plant treats about 3.5 million gallons of water a day on average, that's about 2,400 gallons a minute of water that's entering the plant. So even a little gap is a big enough opening to shoot a lot of water through there. So that's how we wind up with all this debris. So anyway, to back up to, we were just going to replace the screens. 2 vendors came out to take a look at what we've got to see how they can, what screen they can use and the configuration of our channels and how big they are and so on. And one vendor pointed out that if we put our screens in this situation, that they're not going to work properly, and you're going to blame it on the screen and not the way this the way this channel is laid out. So I probably should have been doing this while I was talking. Oh, there we go. If we can bring up the picture I've got here, please. Thank you. Okay. I got a drawing of of at least the screening portion of the Headworks. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Okay. What the vendor was talking about is what's not shown on the screen. I'm going to draw it in as best I can. There's a box. And coming into that box is a 48-inch sewer line. That's the main line that's coming into the plant. So over 100 miles of sewer lines in the city all converge on a 48-inch pipe, and that comes into this box. Okay, this box has a channel that kind of goes on an angle like this and connects to this 30-inch pipe. Okay, so we follow it along. We've got one bend right here, comes through here, and has to make a 90-degree turn. So there's your second bend. Then it comes down here and has to make another turn, and here's the screen. So now we've got 3 bends, a 45 and 2 90-degree bends. We could technically consider 3 90-degree bends if you look at this over here. What that does is the flow is not going straight to the screen, so it's not a nice even flow. You've got turbulence. The water is just constantly churning, and when it hits that screen, it has to hit it just right in order to be able to catch any of the debris. Otherwise, it just keeps rolling around in front of the screen. And it doesn't do a heck of a lot other than cause problems with things backing up. So we said, all right, well, we can't just simply replace the screen, and we had the money budgeted for that. The budgeted amount we had for replacing these screens was $125,000 per screen, which is why, well, wait a minute, did I say that right? Yeah, $125,000, because we have $250,000 budgeted, and that I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's $250,000 budgeted, but that was to have a vendor come in, put in the screens, wire them up, and off we go. Now we're looking at having to get into design because we need to straighten that flow out. So and how we do it, it's going to be up to the engineer, but we've got two things we can look at. One is we can change this, either reconfigure what we currently have somehow, or just build a new 2-channel system. And I'm just going to give an example. This would be the south side of the plant, but if you have 2 channels just right here, I know that looks really good, but the idea being it's a straight line, so the flow would come in down here like it is, and it'll head to these 2 channels. I think the screens will do a lot better. They'll probably last a lot longer, just because they're not being overworked, because we've got 2 screens now instead of 1. So under normal conditions, they can alternate the screens, and high flow conditions run them both. So in order to go into having a design done, we needed to put out an RFQ, whereas initially we were just going to do 3 quotes or put it out for bid just for the screens. So we went with the RFQ. It was advertised as required. We had 5 firms submit qualifications. It was the firms were judged by a selection committee that consisted of 5 city staff members, which was myself, Don Clark, Justin Bland, Tony Brown, the wastewater superintendent, and Danny Farine, who's the water services superintendent. The matrix, and I won't read all this to you because it's all in your report, but there were 4 points that were judged, and they ranged from I believe it was 20 points to 30 points, to total 100. And the highest average score went to McClelland Engineering Consultants. So staff would recommend that you approve a contract with McClelland Engineering Consultants to do up to 30% design. And from that point, there'll be 2 things that'll happen. One is, once we get to 30%, we should have a better idea of how much this whole project's going to cost. And then the second is, we'll see, since we have funds budgeted in 2023 for this Headworks, we'll see how far that money is going to get us before we go any further. We may just end up going to 100% design and call it good for 2023 and revisit it in 24. We'll see. So with that, staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, very quickly, you mentioned that we put $125,000 per screen into the budget for this year, $250,000. You got a quote for screens.
Correct.
Didn't mention. What was the quote cost per
They're
screen?
$125 per screen. That's why the $250,000 was budgeted.
I thought you told me that you had gotten a quote of $600,000.
Oh, the engineer, well, when we selected McClelland, they provided us with a opinion of cost. And I'm glad you brought that up, because in 2021, those screens were $125,000 a piece. The engineer's opinion of cost, based on what they were getting from the same vendors, is $600,000 a piece. So the economy of scale is just ridiculous. I mean, you can't guess anything anymore. But once upon a time, $125,000, we got that from a vendor, and they were going to stick by it. Now they won't honor that quote for more than a week. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the engineering services for our Public Works Department? If not, directors, comments or questions? There being none? Yes, Mindy?
I just need some clarification here, and I think I do know the answer to this, but so the 120,000 is for basically 1/3 of the design services, not the screens. The screen cost will come later when they determine just kind of how the design needs to be around those screens, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Once we get to 30% design, then we'll
So the
hopefully have a
200
better idea what that screen cost
The
is gonna be.
250 was for just the two
two
screens, but
right.
now we're having to spend that money toward designing how best to use those screens.
It's
Okay.
morphed into something else, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? Then do I have a motion to approve the contract for the Public Works Department with McClelland Engineering for $120,000?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Steve. Now, would you like to just stay there for a minute? We'll move to item Q, Public Works Department, Water Division, Project Management Services for the North Water Tower, painting, Horner and Shifrin Incorporated, $33,400. Steve?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor and Board. Steve Gorzek, Public Works Director. This is the last item that I have for you this evening, and it's well, as you all know, that tower needs painted real bad. You know which one I'm talking about. It's the only one that's a little faded, but we're going to attempt to get this thing taken care of so it'll look like the other two water towers. For those of you who are not familiar that are listening, or the North Water Tower is at North Hico Street and Oak Crest Road. It's a big tower. In fact, when you're heading in toward Siloam Springs and you're north of Gentry, you can see that tower right in the middle of Highway 59. So it's pretty visible. The tower was built. It's a 1.5 million gallon water tower. It was built in 1990, and it hasn't been painted since it was built. So the paint has fared pretty well for the last 32 years, but it's definitely needing painting now. What's being proposed is project management for painting the tower. We tried to do this in 2017, and it was just very cumbersome, and it didn't go well. And I said, if we're ever going to do this again, we're going to have somebody that can sit there and watch it all day long, and that's what we're being proposed here. We will come back after we put this project out for bid, which won't be until 2023, but we'll come back with possibly a budget amendment, depending on how much the bid winds up being, whether it's money that we can pull back of what was budgeted for this, or some other means.
So Steve, this is a $33,000 fix the headache problem. Because obviously having to have some company look over it. Sorry, I spoke in, but I was just like, I was excited thinking we were getting the whole thing painted for 33. Then I read the whole detail. I was like,
yeah, wouldn't that be nice? In fact, since you mentioned that, I had budgeted $400,000 because I looked at the bids back in 2017, and $400,000 was higher than even the highest bid. We were going to paint that tower last time for about $160,000. I guarantee you 400 is going to be bumping it, at least based on what I just talked to you about with
will come
Headworks.
out of the 400, I guess.
Right. So we'll have 300 and some thousand. I wanted to mention that since we're in December, I started on this project in June. I visited with actually they do water tower painting, and they bid on the last project. Last time we tried to do this project, and they were talking with Sourcewell and HGAC, which are both purchasing cooperatives, and so the thought was, if you guys can get into this agreement with either one of those, then we won't have to put this out for bid because all the bidding will be done by this organization, and you'll wind up being the most reasonable bid. So after 2 months of them talking to the co-ops, they found out that in order for them to get a contract with the co-op, they were going to have to put this project out for bid. And I just kind of dropped my head and said, that's what I was going to do in the first place. So that's what I ended up doing. It went out for bid, followed the same protocol. We did everything just like the previous presentation, although this time we did an RFP instead of an RFQ because we didn't have any design required, just project management. So I wanted to look at firms that had project management experience, and particularly when it came to water towers. So what can they provide?
Well, Steve, if you looked at it in 2017 and you were throwing your hands up, I think it's a smart idea to say, we're going to let a company do this for us.
I agree.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve Horner and Schifrin, the bid for
David,
$33,400. Oh,
We haven't asked for public comment yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Discussion. So if you'll just hold off, please.
My bad.
I can appreciate that, but since we're at that point, I'll just say that staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the Public Works Department, painting Horner and Schifrin for their project management? There is not. Directors, comments or questions?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Steve, I do have 2 easy questions. I promise they're very easy.
Good, thank you.
In your memo, on your staff report, you said both the interior and exterior had been inspected in 2021. The recommendation was to get the exterior painted. By whom was it inspected and by whom was it recommended by to paint it?
The inspection was done by a company called McGuire Iron, and this is the kind of work they do. They also paint towers.
And they're the ones that made the recommendation.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have a quick question too. These companies that would manage this process, this may be in the contract that you provided, and I overlooked it, but do they take on any liability if, say, they hire someone to do the painting and something goes wrong with the painting? Do they accept any liability for that?
Generally, when it comes to liability on the painting, that would be the painting contractor.
Okay.
Because they'll have a maintenance bond.
Okay.
So they would fix it.
Okay. Okay. I remember this coming up a couple years ago and being floored about $400,000, which it sounds like now may be a bargain, for painting a water tower. So I just kind of started looking into it myself and realized that just the cost of the paint itself is astronomical. And then painters on a water tower in sort of a precarious position when they're painting.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because, granted, I started this in June, but one of the reasons I waited was because we had an issue with striping paint last fall. We wanted to fog seal a couple streets and then stripe it, and the company could not find a particular pigment because it wasn't available yet. So we had to scratch the whole fog seal project because we couldn't stripe it.
Right. Right. Well,
Thank you,
I
Mindy.
appreciate your work on this.
Thank you.
Philip, you have a
Just
comment?
was going to ask, was there a second to Director Allen?
No, I'm getting ready to ask him for his
Mayor,
motion now.
May I say one thing?
Yes,
I'll
yes.
second the tar out of that motion. For the board directors, you get a chance, they are working on the Tahlequah project, and they work in inclement weather at that water tower. So if you want to see scale and scope of work and the conditions
what are
these
they
guys are
doing?
working in.
What are
At
they
the
doing?
city compound off Tahlequah.
Painting it?
They're pressure washing it.
Pressure washing, but it give you a scale and scope of what these folks are doing, and it's pretty, they work right through the weather, and I second David's motion.
I just think if you can justify a company taking over this and not being a distraction for you, I think that's money well spent, that money right there. I don't know, Steve, if it's true, what I had seen at one time on the painting, you said the city logo is going to go in there, but I had also seen a picture of Mayor Judy going, "Welcome to Siloam." Is that right?
Right. And do you have a
Yes.
motion, David?
Yes, I did. I made the motion and Brad seconded it.
And we have a second. So, roll call.
Thank you,
Hunt.
Steve.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Steve. I have had a request for a short recess, so we will recess for about, we'll say 5 minutes, come back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
None of my
We'll
time.
call this Board of Directors meeting back to order. I appreciate your patience while we took that recess. Next are our ordinances. Item R, Ordinance 22-25. This will be the third reading, amending Section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to C1A, 409 North Country Club Road. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is the third reading for a rezoning located at 409 North Country Club Road. The request is to rezone the property from A1 Agriculture to C1A Light Commercial. Staff is still recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions, and staff is available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 22-25? There is not. Directors, comments or questions? There being none, do I have a motion to place Ordinance 22-25 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
Good.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 22-25, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code City Zoning Map, rezoning from A1 to C1A, property located at 409 North Country Club Road.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 22-25?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Allen.
Here, or yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Here and yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 22-25 is adopted. Next, item S, Ordinance 22-28, placed on its first reading, amending Section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R4 to C2, 3000 block of East Highway 412. Megan, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a rezoning request to rezone 4.99 acres located at the 3000 block of Highway 412. They're requesting to rezone the property from R4 residential multifamily to C2 roadway commercial. The future land use map for this property is calling for regional commercial. Therefore, the proposed C2 zoning is appropriate for what the intended land use for the property is. This is the overall site view of the property. You can see it sits just behind Tractor Supply. This property is currently vacant, is primarily surrounded by vacant commercial land. There is residential abutting to the west, as well as a future subdivision plan just to the south of this site. It should be noted that the detention basin for the future Somerset Phase 2 subdivision will be abutting this site. Screening from the residential uses will be required with any future development of the property. Staff is recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions, and staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 22-28? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Will Kellstrom, address 1106 West Poplar Street in Rogers. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Like Megan said, we are asking to rezone about 5 acres on 412 from R4 to C2. The applicant would like to build a storage unit complex, being behind another commercial use and kind of shielded from the public eye and on the highway. I think this is a pretty good spot for a storage unit complex. And so that's about all I've got. The only other request I have is that if you all would be so inclined, we would appreciate it if you all would advance this to the third reading tonight and pass it. If not, we're happy to give you all more time to consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? If not, directors, comments or questions? If there is none, then I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 22, to place ordinance 22-28 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved for first reading. Philip?
Ordinance number 22-28, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from R4 to C2, property located in the 3000 block of East Highway 412.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to resolutions. Item T, Resolution 72-22, Significant Development Permit, 420 North Simon Sager Avenue, The Reserves Apartments. And Megan, once again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a significant development permit request to construct a 208-unit apartment complex on 17.27 acres. This project is located on the 700 block of Highway 412 West, just on Lot 3 of the Reserve Addition. On the screen is the site plan for the proposed multifamily complex. As you can see, we have two drives accessing, sorry, my pen was not working. As you can see, we have two drives accessing North Simon Sager Avenue. These drives do comply with the minimum R4 driveway requirements. Additionally, they are proposing to construct a sidewalk along North Simon Sager Avenue, which is shown here on the plans. This sidewalk will be tying into the development through both the northeast corner of the site as well as the southeast corner of the site. There are two proposed dumpster locations for this project, both located at the front of the development. There's also a proposed detention area shown here, as well as a drainage channel that will flow to the north here. As a condition of approval, the applicant will be required to file drainage and utility easements via a separate instrument. And this is the landscape plan for the project. They will be providing a 10-foot landscape buffer along all sides of the site, as well as interior landscaping throughout the development. And these are the elevations for the proposed development. This is what the clubhouse will look like. And this is what the proposed apartment buildings will look like. This is the overall site view of the property. It sits just to the north of Lowe's and is primarily surrounded by vacant agriculturally zoned land. Staff is recommending approval of this request with two needed conditions. The first condition is pertaining to the need to file drainage and utility easements via separate instrument as directed by the city engineer prior to certificate of occupancy issuance. The second condition is regarding the need to acquire an off-site drainage easement across the neighboring property to the north prior to building permit issuance. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 72-22? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Terry Burris, architect, 11912 Canis Road, Little Rock, Arkansas. Madam Mayor and Board of Directors, first I want to thank you for your support in the rezoning, which allowed us to close on this property and proceed with the design of this development. And I'm here tonight to ask for your continued support so that we can move right on into grading and building permit application. And then quickly, as a side note, I've done what I do for 45 years, and I work in every state around Arkansas, and I've got projects spread from South Arkansas to Northwest Arkansas. And I just want to compliment y'all's staff. From Philip to Don, engineering, fire marshals, Megan, they've been very professional, upfront, have assisted us and guided us in this process, and we're real appreciative of that.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that, or anyone else in the audience that would like to address Resolution 72-22? If not, directors.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Megan, I'm just curious, can you show us how far north that property goes? Does it go all the way to Tahlequah or to the tree line there?
Oh. Well, I apologize. Yeah, I was trying to look at the plan to show you where it was at. I think it just goes to this tree line. I apologize. I should have mark that out.
The tree line, okay, so not all the way to Talcott.
Yeah,
Okay.
so right here, I think, is where the site
Okay.
ends. And then I think it begins right here. This is the drainage for Lowe's right here. So it begins
So it's
there.
pretty deep from Simon Sager. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I was just curious.
Thank you, Megan. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 72-22 with the two staff recommended conditions?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Item U has been removed by the applicant. We move on to item V, Resolution 74-22, Employee Handbook Amendments. And Misty, you have the floor.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Board. Misty McClelland, HR Manager. Staff has reviewed the Employee Handbook, and we would like to recommend 3 amendments. The first one, Section 401, the vacation benefits. State statute requires police and fire receive a specific amount of vacation time each year. The city's current policy is that the vacation time for police and firefighters does not increase until year 11 of service. The proposed change allows for the increase to incur in their 6th year of service. The second is Section 404, the deferred compensation. This would move the employer contribution from 6% to 12%. You guys were all talking about that at the last meeting. And it would grandfather employees that make already the 12%, the excess of the 12%. Number 3, Section 411, bereavement leave. We would just want to add spouses, grandparents to the handbook to be approved for bereavement. And staff is available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Misty. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 74-22? There being none, directors.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I do have some questions. I brought up the compensation on the deferred compensation. This is something I've been asked to be looked into, and so one of the suggestions was that we make it more equal among employees, that so we don't have people getting 6% and some getting 18%. We want to make it equal. And I noticed in here it says effective December 26, 2022. Why was that date picked? It's kind of an odd number. It's kind of like, that stands out. Why?
It does. That is the beginning date for the first payroll in January.
That's the beginning date, okay.
Yes.
So that would include all the people that just got promoted within the what we voted last time. There's some promotions in there, is there not?
I believe.
Promotions in there?
So if, if people were moving to directors,
Mm-hmm.
they would, at the beginning of the year, they would then be giving 12% deferred comp.
They will not get the 15%.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Because if it's the first payroll, have those people already been moved up
No, I can't move them up until 2023.
until that was approved for those raises? Oh, okay. So, because I want to make sure that everybody's,
Their promotion would occur simultaneously with that change, basically, beginning in 2023. So they weren't promoted before that change, so they wouldn't earn the greater percentage of deferred compensation.
oh, okay, okay. Because I just wanted to make sure that's what the whole idea is,
Yes,
to get everybody
right.
equal.
Yes.
12%. So if we keep, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 74-22 for the Employee Handbook Amendments?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is item W, which is Resolution 75-22, 2022 Budget Amendments. Christina?
Mayor, members of the board, Christina Petruchis, Finance Director. The amendments proposed for the 2022 budget include all of the board-approved items that impacted the budget, as well as several items that needed to be addressed. These include an emergency replacement of the HVAC at the wastewater plant, an insurance adjustment, and a lot of fuel. Fuel costs for the amount used by the city increased by over $387,000, and fuel for resale increased by $550,000. Other adjustments include landfill fees and a non-cash expense to mark investments to market. And staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 75-22? Directors?
I've got a question.
Yes, David.
On your cover memo, Christina, it says the amendments relating to investment in U.S. Treasuries for $170,000.
Correct.
Who decides that? Is that retirement money or?
No, that's just an investment of city funds, and we only invest in CDs, CDARs, and U.S. Treasury bonds. And since we hold them to maturity, there's no actual loss.
Reflecting on the previous thing, in terms of the employee retirement, where does that money get invested? Is there the donations from the city and the employee?
So the donations from the city go into a 401A account with ICMA, and
all with ICMA?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That you just answered my question. Thank you. That's what I need to know. And then I had something else, but I don't know where it went. Down in the part that is shaded, the insurance adjustment for sanitation, what was that again?
That is for damage to a vehicle that needs to be repaired.
Insurance adjustment, but I didn't
Yes.
know.
Oh, that's damage to a vehicle that needed to be repaired. We've received the funds for it, but it's
Not
more.
something you can budget for, yeah.
Correct.
Okay. And my goodness, what a massive amount of fuel increases. That if we got all that fuel right here in the U.S. What the question I had is on the top, even though it's already, we've already gone over it, the private donation from Walton Family Foundation on the reconstructed dam, and then that's reflected later in the expense of the dam reconstruction, which we had already budgeted part, is what they put in, that's over years, isn't it? Or is it all one amount? I guess it is one amount because to repair it.
They rebuilt it, and so we have to book the whole asset, and that is that's the portion they're paying. Mm-hmm.
And our cost down below was the $233. Okay.
Yes.
I get mixed up sometimes because there's a thing that we're paying that's yearly, a smaller amount that totals something.
It totals $700,000. That's going to be our total. Yes.
Okay. I got mixed up as to, wait a minute, okay, but now
It just happens to match. It's just coincidental that it's the same number for the other.
Yeah. I did think that. It sure is coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then on the East Main Street design, the 199, we didn't vote on that this last year. Was that an old thing?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
figured it had to have been, and it was just spent, even though it had been budgeted.
Correct.
It was just spent in 21, which there's probably always going to be some of them at the end of the year, that whether it's capital or services or whatever. Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 75-22 for the 2022 budget amendments?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, we are moving to staff reports. We have our October financials and the administrator's report. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You have the October financials in your packet. As generally stating, if you have any questions, feel free to contact myself or Christina. As you notice, I have a number of items to report in my administrator's report, so I'm going to try to go through them as quickly as possible. We have a number of expenditures that I need to report in excess of $30,000. At the airport, 8,000 gallons of low lead fuel for $35,359.47. Also at the airport, 8,000 gallons of Jet A fuel for $36,466.88. In the fire department, we were finally able to find a pickup truck for them to be able to purchase, which was originally budgeted. 2022 Dodge Ram Tradesman Quad Cab 4x4 for $44,294. And then in the police department, we purchased two individual purchases of Dodge Ram Crew Cab pickups on state bid for $35,440 each. And one of those purchases will be offset by a donation from Simmons Foods in the amount of $25,000. Both of those vehicles are intended to be for the new SROs that were added to the budget. And then per Resolution 6121 for inventory, $69,944 for 150 kVA single-phase pad mount transformer, one 225 kVA three-phase pad mount transformer, and one 500 kVA three-phase pad mount transformers. As many citizens, a number of citizens have been made aware, the community survey was mailed out late last week. The survey was mailed out to approximately 400 households. So if you are listening to this and are one of those households that did receive the survey, we would ask that you complete it and send it back into the company. Your participation in that survey will assist the city in helping us determine future priorities and what is most important to our residents. Regarding the Christmas parade, I wanted to thank the Heritage League for putting on what I think was one of the best Christmas parades we've seen. They do a great job every year. According to our count from Placer AI, we had 8,400 cell phones in the area, assuming that those were parents, and you assume adding one child to each one of those pairs, there were over 10,000 people watching the parade. So it was a huge event for the city. And I wanted to thank city staff. They worked a long day on Saturday in community development. Don Clark, James Harris, Nathan Bailey, Wade Baker, Travis Cheney, Trent Booter, Dennis Helt, Levi Spencer, and Brian Nelson, and Jack Long and Stephen Cook. In the street department, Kevin Allen, Chris Land, Nathan Esteps, Nicholas Lawson, Justin McClelland, Ricky Gibson, and Ryan Wilson. And then also in the police department, we had all the SRO officers, Sergeant Bland, Corporal Strickland, Corporal Brown, officers Harrington and Lewis, and also retired part-time officers Carter and Sally working the event. And I think it turned out very, very well. I didn't hear any complaints other than complaining about some people not using the trash cans and just dropping their trash on the ground. But I thought it was a great event, and again, the Heritage League, I think, did a really good job. I wanted to provide you with a small announcement that ANRC, the Arkansas Natural Resources Commission, earlier this year was provided by the state legislature with $270 million in American Rescue Plan money for water and wastewater improvements and projects. And half of that money was set aside for water projects, and the other half was set aside for wastewater and stormwater projects. We submitted 6 different grant applications to ANRC, and you've got them listed there. And the great news is that the $4,868,069 grant application that was submitted to ANRC was approved.
Yay.
Excuse me?
Yay.
Yay. Yay is right. What it means in reality is our $31 million water treatment plant expansion is now really only going to cost us about $26 million, because that money is for that plant expansion. So we will take that money and turn around and pay part of our loan, our low-interest loan. We already have about $9 million saved up, so we're going to end up putting almost $14 million down on that loan this year. So it was great. Steve Gorsuch put all those applications together. I was hoping that some of the other ones would be approved, but I was very happy that the largest application was approved. Director Allen, you asked me at the last board meeting about potential budget amendments going into 2023. I wasn't aware of any things that had come through where we needed to amend the budget based on the time since we put the budget together. After that meeting and discussions with staff, I became aware of a number of projects and purchases that we've made in 2022, but the items aren't going to be delivered until 2023, which will require budget amendments. What you have there are 5 that I'm aware of. I'm not going to promise you that this is a complete list, but you can see for fire department, a purchase of a Tahoe for $46,000 some odd dollars. Superior Chevy has ordered multiple Tahoes, but none of the red color Tahoes are currently available. So we expect that to be delivered hopefully in 2023. Again, a brush truck in the fire department, $25,000, ordered in 2022 in March. Expected date originally was June 2022. The manufacturer is still waiting on parts, and we don't know when exactly that order is going to be delivered. Again, in the fire department, vehicle upfit for $12,000, still waiting on the equipment for the upfit. Estimated delivery is early 2023. And then we ordered 2 ambulances, or an ambulance, in January of 2022. You remember, after approving the budget, we came back first meeting in 2022 and amended the budget with the idea that we would get that ambulance, and the expected delivery date was anticipated to be May 2023, and now it's expected to be 2024. So the supply chain problems continue to persist and continue to give us major headaches. And then lastly, in sanitation, we needed to order a new engine for our 1994 Mack truck, which is the truck that pulls the large the trailers out of the pit. That's $24,000. We're still waiting on that new engine, and we had to order a turbo kit for one of the recycling trucks for $8 some odd thousand, and both of those are expected to be delivered in 2023. Those aren't capital. One of them's capital, but it's really in the operations and maintenance budget. I received word today from City Clerk Renee about the online auction. It's due to close on December 17th. It is available for anybody to look at. The information is on the city's webpage. You can find that information and go to another webpage that will take you to all the items that are available for auction. There's 148 different lots or items. And as of today, that website has had over 46,000 views. We have 115 registered bidders. They've already made 664 bids total, and the high bids of all those 644 currently equal almost just under $30,000. So that online bid is currently out there, and it's working much better than our physical bids where we used to do, or physical auctions that we used to do. I also wanted to update the board. We had did a survey not too long ago on hangar fees at the airport. We are the lowest hangar fees that we could find almost in the state for any size city that operates an airport. There's nothing in the city code about hangar fees. There's not a resolution I could ever find about hangar fees. The last thing we could find was that they were updated or increased approximately 10 years ago. So we're in the process of beginning to notify all the lessees at the airport that their lease is due to be renewed, and we are preparing to increase the monthly rate on all of the hangar fees by $25 to bring it in more in line with what we see in the marketplace for hangars. To give you an idea, we currently rent our T hangars, which are the cheapest hangars out there. We currently rent them for $600 a year, and similar hangars in Bentonville and Springdale and Rogers rent anywhere from $720, $888 to $1,500 a year. So we would propose to take those from $600 to $900. One of our largest hangars, 44 by 36, rents for $2,400 a year, and similar hangars in Bentonville and Rogers that we could find rent for $3,700 and $5,500 a year. So that additional $25 a month would increase all of those rates by $300 a month. But I wanted to let you know that we're moving forward on that in case you hear anything, because we'll be sending out the information to the leasees this month. And then lastly, I'm sad to report, Director Ressler asked me about this, I believe it was yesterday, and it came to my attention over the weekend. We don't, with the communications manager leaving earlier this fall, we did not have time to put together the Christmas decoration, Deck the House program, the contest. So we're not able to run that this year, but we will be bringing that back next year. Madam Mayor, that's my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Philip. So we will move on now to our director's reports. And usually I don't say very much now, but I have a few things that I do want to say, and some awards that I want to share with you all that we have received as a city. And to let you know that part of the reason I'm doing this now is because I will not be here on the December 20th meeting. And Vice Mayor Reed Carroll has graciously said he would be sure and be here and take care of this meeting for us. So I know I'm leaving it in very capable hands. But I want to follow up with what Philip said about the Light Up Siloam and the Christmas Parade. It was a great event, and it was wonderful to see all of our citizens there, and I know we had lots of people from out of town that came. I've heard a lot of good things. So thank you to the Heritage League. They do a great job every year. To our staff, Don and all of his staff. I know the electric department, I talked with one of the gentlemen while I was waiting to flip the switch, and I asked him, just how long have you all been working on this? And they started right after Halloween. They were going through replacing all the bulbs that were not burning. They got out and made sure that everything was taken care of. I was very confident whenever I flipped the switch that everything was going to come on, and it did. So, we all had our fingers crossed. But thank you to all of you that worked so hard to make that event happen, because our citizens love it, the people that visit our city love it, and it's a service that a lot of people don't know how many hours and how much time our staff puts into that. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I want to say thank you to the American Legion, the VFW, and the disabled veterans. They are very excited about our city and for the things that they look forward to helping us do in this coming year, and they appreciate this board's support. And I just want to acknowledge that and to tell them thank you for what they have done, and I know that we will continue to support them. And I also want to say thank you for the survey, Philip, that we have sent out. I actually had a citizen come to me the other day and say, thank you so much for doing that, that she and her neighbors had talked, and they said, this is great. This gives us an opportunity to tell you what's on our minds and how we feel. And so I think hopefully after hearing that, we are going to have a really good response from that survey. So I look forward to that, and I would encourage our citizens to be sure and complete that survey. That's how we know what you are looking for and what you need. So please fill that out for us. And then a couple of other things. One is in October of this year, I was invited to the Hmong New Year celebration and to represent our city. And I was glad that I got to go. It was great. They are such gracious people, and they love Siloam Springs, and they really appreciate the support that they get from our citizens here. And they gave us a little trophy, and it just says for our participation in the New Year celebration, October 22. And so this will be sitting here at City Hall for all of us. And the other thing is, which I think that the directors will be very pleased to hear and see, is on Monday, a gentleman by the name of Gary Berger came to City Hall, and he met with Philip and I. He represents the Tesla Owners Club of Arkansas, and he wanted to award us with an award for the resolution that we passed, which was providing a temporary incentive for installation of a garage 240-volt electrical service in new residential construction. He said this is great. It's what they are encouraging other cities to do, because this is something that's coming. We know that there will be more and more of these electric vehicles, and they were just wanted to make sure that they acknowledged what we had done here. And it says, EV Champion of the Year 2022, Siloam Springs Mayor Judy Nation and the City Council, and Tesla Owners of Arkansas. So this will also be here at City Hall for everyone to see. So thank you, directors. They are very appreciative of your support. And with that, I will go to the directors. Oh, and I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, because I won't get to do that later. So I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And thank you for letting me be your mayor for another year. I love this job, and I love this city. So thank you. And so now, Mindy, we will start with you, and David, end with you.
Okay, Philip, thank you for the update on the Christmas decorating contest. I suspected that we might have to forego it this year because of staffing issues, and that's why I didn't even ask you about it. But I do want to encourage us to resume it next year if we can, because I think it was something that people in the community enjoyed. And I would also like to encourage us to start it possibly before Thanksgiving. I think a lot of people do put up their Christmas lights on Thanksgiving weekend or during Thanksgiving weekend. And so if we could start it a little bit earlier, I think that would be helpful. And Director Burns does not have to be involved, or he can be involved. Okay. Thank you also, as has already been mentioned, to the Heritage League and the staff for their work on the parade. I was not able to go this year because I had a wedding to go to, but I heard only good things about it, having been in Heritage League for several years myself. I know how much work goes into it, and but it's always worth it when you see the faces of those kids and families just really enjoying the parade. Also want to thank all the staff who have to get up in front of us and present their requests to us. I know that's not an easy thing to do, and I know sometimes we have hard questions, but you present with professionalism, and you answer our questions with grace, and I appreciate that. Speaking of thanking staff, I want to thank the crew that worked on the busted water line that happened to take place in my front yard while I was out of town. We got a call from my, fortunately it was on the south side of my driveway, so it was a little bit further away from our house than it could have been, but we were out of town, and we got a call from our son who was in town about 8 o'clock that morning, and he never gets real riled up about anything, and he had taken some video and said, "Mom, I think you might want to see this." And sure enough, there was a gush of water. I guess enough water that the pressure throughout town was pretty low, and it was because all that water in that water tower was in our side yard. But honest to goodness, I can say I was not concerned because I knew it was in good hands. And I know specifically, of course, Steve was ultimately over everybody and working on that the crew that day. And then also the others that were there were Danny Farine, Dennis Leroy, Eric Ward, Jeremy Hutchison, Michael Phillips, and Jacob Updegrove. And I know that there will be others that will work on it too, because there's still some cleanup to do. And so I just thank those people ahead of time. But I did appreciate and appreciated the work and knew that it was in good hands when we were many miles away and couldn't do anything. I also, real quick, congrats on the funding for the water treatment plant improvement project. That's wonderful. Anytime we can hear that we have gotten money, that's for our projects, that's wonderful. And then lastly, a month ago, I didn't know whether I was going to be able to continue serving the citizens of Siloam or not. It was a couple of days before the election. And before any more time passes, I just want to go on record how much I appreciate the voters. I learned a lot through that process. I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about just things in general when it comes to campaigns, elections. But I especially appreciate the voters and those who supported me throughout the process. And I know that I didn't get 100% of the votes, but I know I will serve 100% of the citizens. And I look forward to continue to do that for the next 4 years. So thank you.
Brad?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to say something real straight to the point, and then for David and Lisa's consideration, but I can't speak for Marla, but I did speak of the chamber. I still believe that the chamber does not need to be subsidized by taxpayer dollars. Having said that, I understand it takes time for a leadership to make those amendments. And that's why I didn't make any motions against funding the chamber. It concerns me that we did not, over the past months, have any poignant questions regarding Main Street. And I can't do anything about it. I'm ending this year. It would be nice to see that 722, the renewal of economic development for Main Street, be brought back up by one of those members, reducing it by the 5,000, so it would be 30,000. And removing Part B, the Downtown Connectivity Master Plan, Communication and Coordination. I just think of the board members that I've worked with in the past, and when we passed that for the East Main Street design, and then what it's become now, it's just part of that process, and I understand things change, but I know what downtown was like when I worked at the firehouse, and I know what downtown is like today. And it's just not, it's not right, it doesn't feel right, and it is not correct. And if 23, those adjustments aren't made, obviously that board needs to replace who runs Main Street. There's a problem there. And, but they need time to make that correction. I wish the chamber would back that up, because I know they work together. I know the chamber does. I know the chamber works together with Main Street and the city of Siloam Springs. I know those things occur. So that is concerning, and if either one of you would consider that, it'd be fantastic. Secondly, I can't thank everybody, but it is a good year to be a city employee. That's what I know. As a former city employee and retired out, it is a good time to be a city employee in the city of Siloam Springs. Thirdly, my expectations of Sager Creek. Number one, I thank the board members for stepping up and putting those additional funds into Sager Creek. I think it was extremely underfunded by city staff. My expectations in 2023 outside of the work is I think this could be done in-house. I think we can do a public input session and get feedback from the citizens. I think at the end of 2023 we can pursue grants and applications for that, and I think they're out there. I think water and connectivity is huge right now. I think in 24 we could budget that project, and by 2025 that project can be completed, whatever that ends up looking like. I don't want Sager Creek, because I'm not up here thumping my, whatever I thump, my chest. When I went out to City Lake today and up on Wango Tango, and if you walk on the bike trail, and right now is a good time, you can look over City Lake. It took 40 years to get City Lake where it is today, and we still haven't finished the plan. And but I know city staff is reaching out, and I know we will get a permanent maintenance plan out there. It is an awesome area, and that's what I see Sager Creek. This started long before me. There's been many, many board members, and I think we reflect on James Fuller specifically, but there's been a grassroots movement of folks that don't even live in the community anymore that are still interested. It's the right thing to do. I don't want to see us drag this out to infinity.com. I think it would tie in great with the Christmas parade. I think it'd draw in more people. It's a positive win-win. And so moving forward, that's my encouragement to staff and this board, because even that large position, you'll still be here to see that through. And I just hate to see it being drawn and dragged out any longer than it already has. Outside the safety issue, I think that is one thing I think we all agreed on unanimously. And I hate for committees to get together and not get things done. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Lisa?
I want to say thank you to the Heritage League. It was an amazing parade. We had lots of visitors come in with us and sit and watch the parade, and they complimented and compared to other cities and said that it was an amazing parade. It was an amazing parade. I'm at the end of my first 4 years, beginning in next month we'll start my next 4 years, and many times we've had conversations go on in the board meetings, and sometimes people would say, "Oh, we're going through hooplas," or "This is a circus," and conversation is good. Conversation is what lets the citizens know we care enough to have a conversation about what's going on in their community. So I don't ever look at when we have a conversation or when we disagree that it's a bad thing, that it's a negative thing. I always think of it as we've given the citizens what we were elected to do, is have a conversation. And so I hope others don't take it as a negative, because when I question things, when I want answers, it's not because I'm putting somebody down. It's not because I'm trying to hurt a staff member or hurt an organization. I'm just getting answers for those citizens that have elected me to get those answers. And so I hope the staff's feelings aren't hurt. I've been exactly in that exact position. I've had my agenda items turned down that I've spent 6 months to a year on. And I've learned how to not let it affect my feelings, because it's not personal. We're talking about citizens' tax dollars and how we spend them, and we're not going to all agree. So don't take it personal. It has nothing to do with a specific person. As far as the Christmas decorating contest, so I had a lot of people contact me. They loved the idea. They loved that Mindy came up with the idea, presented it. We did it last year, and some people have already started decorating. Yes. And, oh, Brad, I decorate 5 homes, well, 3, and then I try to help a couple others. So I do start early because I have to decorate so many. And so, sorry about that if I have to. But I would like to volunteer my time, and if any other directors would like to, I would be willing to do this. Whatever the job was, I will volunteer 100% of my time to make sure this happens this year.
I vote Mindy also.
I don't know what she did. I can't. I don't know what Holland did.
Even if it's a little different, even if it's, citizens have already started decorating.
The thing that had kind of kept me from volunteering more was she put together a map that had pins of all the locations, and that's above my technical pay
And
grade.
it's not above mine.
But if you could
But
do
if,
something.
if directors want to work with me and let's make this happen, I would love it. Because I did have citizens say, I've already started. And they loved the idea. And
I think last year too, she got lots of different judges, and they judged different areas. Maybe I'm not sure. I know she did it differently both years.
and nobody says we got to do it.
But
have
you
to do
can
it
do
exactly like
right.
hers.
It could be done.
So if there's any other directors that would like to do it, I would like to volunteer. Because I would like to see it happen, because it was a great idea, Mindy. It was a great idea. And it brought the community together.
I thought it was really good timing, because we did it the first year during COVID.
Yeah.
And I think people did enjoy it.
So if anybody else wants to volunteer, I'll volunteer to do the map.
Chamber can help you.
The chamber can
will
help?
volunteer. And Mindy, would you be willing to?
I'm happy
Yeah,
to
what
help
about you,
with
Brad?
it.
Come on.
Main Street was the one that actually handled the funding of it. We did give awards.
Okay.
You can do that.
So I would need to find donations, which we can do it. I'd even
We
be
had
willing to
a
put
source.
money where my mouth is.
We had a source for the prize money that I can handle that.
So.
Lisa, David,
And my understanding is that the reason Main Street handled the financial aspect of it, because the city could not give out money. So Main Street was willing to do that. I can definitely handle I'm happy to help, and if the chamber could help.
And I can help with the promotions. I have the technology skills.
I vote Marla also.
Brad's volunteered Marla.
well,
No.
I don't know that Marla would be able to do that. She's pretty,
It's a great idea, and I think that it'd be disappointing to people if we let them down. I think it would let some people down.
Is it okay if we're talking about this right now?
Well, and is it, because it was.
Do we have
through the-
support from the staff?
I don't know what support you're asking from staff, so.
What
We
support did
can't
they
be
give
talking
last
about
year?
this right now. If we want to informally talk about it, because it's not a city function, it's not something the city votes on.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was something that was done by a city staffer before, and the city decided
Is
not
that
to
the
do it.
only role that city staff played in it?
My knowledge, yes. I mean,
We don't know.
Holland put it together and planned it,
Funny,
is that correct?
Holland put it, Director Hunt brought the idea, we loved the idea, Holland put it all together. When it came up this weekend, and even before you sent me the email, I went through all of Holland's stuff about where she did and how, and I didn't find it. I'll look again, but I didn't find that piece of it.
Yeah.
So,
Even if we do it different, it's okay.
yeah, you can do it different. We
Yeah.
want to bring it back. Our new communications director, who is, very technically savvy when it comes to all that business, she doesn't start until the 19th of this month. So
Oh, okay.
I don't
Weird
have.
that you brought it up, because I was actually going to volunteer you and Mindy to do it. I was going to volunteer too.
Oh, I was trying to say, you
No,
sound
I was
like
Well-
Brad.
No, I was going to say, I think the board could do it, the board that wants to be a part of it, so.
Can I ask this question? Since the chamber has volunteered to help this year, is it something that they
They would take
sort
the
of-
lead on?
They could take the lead on this year if they're willing, in lieu of the city this year, and then because I think that would be wonderful if the chamber was willing to help with it. I think it is a great thing for the city to be able to provide too. We just don't have the resources this year to do that. So
I think you need to talk to the chamber after the meeting,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Okay.
So y'all can discuss that with Arthur.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Anything else?
No, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Before Reed, I pass on to you, there was one other thing that I did not mention that I want to make sure that I do. On December the 2nd, our fire department had an awards ceremony, and I did not see any of you all there, and you missed a great program, and some really wonderful awards were given. Chief Kreiner, your department has just exceeded, I think, everyone's expectations in the job that they do. And it was, be sure and tell Heidi, thank you. She put that together and did a really, really good job. So thank you for that, and be sure and let your staff know that we appreciate them, and it was a great ceremony. So next year, you all need to make sure that you go, because it's a really, really special time. So,
Madam Mayor, can
yes.
I just make one comment on that? I don't like doing
Yes.
this, but I specifically told the fire chief I don't attend award banquets that do not serve beer. And he had it at a facility, and I took that as a message that I was not welcome.
Oh,
and
did
I
you
still
now?
I love fire department, but I got it. I got his message. That's good.
You're absolutely right. At the venue we were at, no, I don't believe that beer would have been served. Thank you, Brad. Now, Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, Philip, I like the tie.
Thank you.
Very festive.
For the third person today that has mentioned it, and I greatly appreciate it. At 5 o'clock, nobody had mentioned it. I was really depressed.
Glad I could
Wore it
brighten your
all
day.
day and nobody mentioned it?
That's correct. Mary Nolan was the first person to mention it when she walked in the door. David, you mentioned it. And I have, short story, I have 12, when I used to wear a tie every day, I have 12 ties for the 12 days of Christmas. So I won't be wearing them again, but I will have another one in 2 weeks, okay?
All right, we're looking forward. I wanted to make a comment concerning the Utility Commission. I was on the panel that worked with helping to put that together and to make selection. And you know, one thing that I saw from that, it was much more than just individual people, but it was to be able to select individuals who could have a good working knowledge of utility and an understanding of it, but also being able to work together as a unit. And it was amazing to me how intricate that was in trying to get 5 people that not only could do it, but could also work together and stand up for themselves, but also let somebody else have the lead if need be. So I'm very thankful for that and glad we could put that together. Concerning Main Street, Philip, I'd like to see if we could address that and see what needs to be done to get that remedied, put together.
I will be happy to have a conversation with Jay, but I'm, at least right now, I'm of the opinion that Director Ressler and Director Allen are the ones who can request to bring that back, because they were in the prevailing, I knew there was a term you used, the prevailing side of that. And so
All right.
when something's been decided, it doesn't get to come back unless those in the prevailing side make a motion to bring it back.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing if that's possible. Thank you.
I did ask Jay, or I was going to ask Jay another question that I'll talk to him tomorrow, because there may be another option, but I don't think there is tonight.
Okay, thank you. Director Allen, condolences to you. I will say this concerning your father. He said one sentence, and it affected 18 years of my life, and I'll have to tell you that story sometime.
Okay.
Today I did go, attended a funeral for a good friend of mine, and it was held at St. Mary's Catholic Church here in town. And following the service, we had a police escort to the cemetery at Oak Hill. And I'm of the opinion that our police officers are omniscient, because when I left that facility, Officer Ephraim was stopping traffic on 412 so I could get onto it. When I pulled into Oak Hill, Officer Ephraim was welcoming me to Oak Hill. Whatever you all do in the police department, and you run a very tight ship with that, I appreciate the skill of the officers to be able to manipulate the lights and the people. We saw people actually pull over in reference, respect. It's not something I've seen often, but today I did see that, and I want to say to the people of this community, I appreciate the respect that is shown for someone who is in transit, and really appreciate the professionalism police department showed today and how well it was executed. I don't know how much training goes into that, but it was done well. And I would like to just encourage everyone to enjoy this season. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. And I'm sorry, David, I thought of something else I need to say. I want to make sure that our citizens are aware that there is a program and you saying St. Mary's made me think about this. I visited with a lady last night, and she started a program, and they continue it now. They started during COVID. Every first and third Friday of the month, they serve a hot meal to anyone that would like to come through and pick that up. No questions asked, nothing. Just you drive through, they serve you a hot meal, and they are unable at this time to let people go into the fellowship area. They have stopped that during COVID and have not been able to start that back, but it is drive-through, and anyone is welcome to come and have a hot meal. And I think that's really important, especially as we're getting into the winter season, colder weather. There are a lot of people in this community that are in need and are homeless. I think a lot more than what we realize. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. That is a service that they have for our citizens, anyone that is in need, that they can go in and get a hot meal twice a month at least. So thank you for that, and thank you, Reed and David. You are up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mindy, I was actually surprised at how low the water flow. It was like, Dad, the shower just wasn't working right. And then when I learned it was right in front of your house, I'm like, and then I heard you weren't even in town. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But it
taken a bath in
came
my
back
yard.
quickly. They were not very long before they got it going back. And it was impressive that just like on our electric, if our electric goes out, our staff is on it. And they did a great job with that problem. Thank the Lord for the funding for the water plant. Philip, you called it the ARP. That's the American Rescue Plan.
Yes.
Is that right? So it's federal tax dollars coming back here, right? It goes to the state, and then the state divvies it up.
Yes.
But I'm just glad that it's federal money. Any federal money coming back local, I'm thankful for every dollar, because enough of our money goes up there. So that was fantastic, especially to lower our liability or how much we're going to end up owing on the water plant upgrade. So that's fantastic news. I wanted to let you know, Mayor Nation, the citizens of Hmong heritage are very important to the city of Siloam. They had me come to a dinner they had when I was mayor, and they had Vietnam veterans there who were Hmong, supported the United States in the Vietnam War. And we honored them, and it was like, you learn something new every day. And for these gentlemen to be there, and you could tell that they were so proud to be honored, and it was really a nice thing. And so I appreciate that community very much. I also want to say thank you to Simmons Foods for their $25,000 donation towards the new vehicle for the school resource officer. That is our local business stepping up. And Simmons always does whatever's needed, and I appreciate them very much. What a crowd at the parade. It was phenomenal. I was sitting up high, and I could see that it was obvious bigger than last year. And it was really great to see how much city staff were out there taking all the the things down afterwards, but I felt so bad how much trash there was. It was like, this is the first year we've done food trucks down in the Hoffman parking lot, and maybe we need to rethink that. It was big styrofoam containers and people just throw them in the trash and in the street. It was everywhere, and it's a far cry from the businesses downtown during the parade who just provide hot chocolate or cocoa or coffee, because those are just cups and they usually get in the trash. So that was the only negative thing. It was a great turnout and a great parade, and I was so pleased with Santa, Kevin Smith. I don't think any kids are watching that. I'm going to break the. But what? But he had a really, really nice green vest outfit, and I thought it was really slick. I thought Kevin looked great this year. He was riding instead of on the fire truck the way they used to do. He was riding in the back of the. I'm sorry, Santa was riding in the back of the pickup truck, and it was a beautiful. You're not writing any of this down good. Okay. But it was really nice, and I appreciated how Kevin was doing a great job standing there the whole time and waving. He's a stand-up guy, and I appreciate him doing that. I also had thought when I heard the home decorating contest was not going to go, I was like, we can't do this. And I was going to say, you look like somebody who could do it, and you look like somebody who could do it, and I will be a part of it. Anybody else, I think our board could step up and find the money and find the, I mean, even if it's like, Mindy, call Holland, say, how did you do this? And just quiz and say, we need to pull this together, because you don't want to pull the rug out from people that have already put their decorations on, and there's a lot. So I think that's really important that we continue this tradition. And hey, it could just be one year that we step in and help pick up the slack. Just scanning, see if there's anything else. And Brad, the reason I don't go to fire department award shows, if they don't provide donuts, I've told them, if you don't have donuts, I'm not going to be. And they said no donuts. So it's beer for you, donuts for me. That's my kryptonite. So sorry.
Gross combination.
Thank you, everyone in the entire city and city staff, for your support in this hard time. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Mayor Judy, Merry Christmas. We love you. You do a great job.
Thank you, David.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.